schedule. Take water. Israel speaks of the theft of water. Cruel, ugly, frightening. Let me explain. The Palestinians in the West Bank of the occupied territory get only a meager amount of water per person. 17% of the available water is allocated to the Palestinians in the West Bank. The rest is diverted to the Jewish settlers who occupy ever-growing portions of the West Bank. A Jewish settler in the West Bank gets 12 times as much water as a Palestinian in that same area. And enormous Palestinian-held areas could be irrigated, but the areas lie barren because Israel refuses to permit irrigation. Only when land is taken for Jewish settlements is irrigation permitted. In Gaza, the situation is much worse. Palestinian food production is systematically dried up and destroyed, while that of the Jewish settlers in the Gaza is flourishing. Listen to this terrible fact. 40% of Gaza is reserved for a mere 2,500 Jewish settlers, while another 40% must be divided among 700,000 people. That means that the Jewish settlers in Gaza have 280 times as much land on which to survive as do the Palestinians. Israel Sheikh explains in one of his translations from the Hebrew press just how this is done. And I quote from Israel Sheikh: "By their efficient deep drilling, the Israeli settlements cause the seawater, the salt seawater, to enter the underground reservoirs tapped by the Palestinians, while their own deeper wells are not affected." How would you like that? In other words, the Israelis cleverly pollute Palestinians' scarce supply of water without hurting their own. Listen again to Israel Sheikh, and I quote again: "Since Palestinians are strictly prohibited from deep drilling, or indeed from digging new wells on their land, the result is that the seawater seeps into their existing wells. Nor can Palestinians improve the pumping of the water that they need. Even sales of spare parts for pumps, for old pumps, are rigorously controlled. As an American, I hang my head in shame to recount this fact, because I know that America is the pipeline without which Israel could not survive and could not inflict this punishment upon those poor people in Gaza and the West Bank." Israel Sheikh says torture of Palestinians comes in many forms. Listen again to the words of Israel Sheikh: "Torture by humiliation. Palestinians, including the elderly," he writes, "are frequently ordered to attend the office of the military governor for hours and even days. They are required to stand all that time, patiently and quietly. Even the elderly must politely ask permission of a young Israeli official in order to have the right to go to the toilet. The aim is to reduce all Palestinians without distinction." Here I'm reading again from Israel Sheikh. These are not my words. "The aim is to reduce all Palestinians without distinction to the level of small children, completely dependent upon higher authority, and to put every Israeli on the higher level. It is also legal," he continues to write, to close all clinics, all medical services in a town, to cut off electricity for hours and days, to cut off telephone service for hours and days. As an American, I hang my head in shame to have to recount these facts to you, because I know that the U.S. government is the lifeline to Israel, without which Israel could not inflict these dreadful policies upon these people. And in today's Israel is another echo of the dreadful Nazi past. Book burning. Yes, book burning. Can you imagine that? In this day and age, book burning. Listen again to Israel Sheikh, and these are his words. Israeli soldiers are burning books. Yes, book burning is now in vogue. Soldiers enter a Palestinian library, whether it be in a home or in a public place. They gather up all the books. They put them in a pile outside and set them on fire. They must, they say, destroy books that incite uprising. Well, because they cannot read Arabic, they say, they must burn all books just to make sure that the evil ones are destroyed. And as you know so well, schools and universities are being closed on a haphazard, often permanent basis in the West Bank and Gaza. Another powerful instrument to make life unbearable for Palestinians. Torture goes far beyond simply everyday humiliation, though, even beyond the cutting off of water, the polluting of scarce water supplies, the cutting of telephones, the cutting of medical services, the burning of books. Israel Sheikh cites widespread, arbitrary arrest and imprisonment without due process, humiliation of young and old, women and children, and the ugly consequences of the government sanctioning of beatings of innocent people, people on the street as well as those incarcerated in prison. Listen as I quote again Israel Sheikh. Israel once showed respect for Palestinian women. They were sacred, but no longer. Now, these are Israel Sheikh's words, not mine. Now, as a matter of routine, a Palestinian woman may expect to be taken into custody without warning and forced to strip to her underpants. Then each woman, stripped nearly naked, is taken by a group of Israeli soldiers into a room. The door is locked, and the woman is held there for an hour or so. And Sheikh adds somberly, you can use your own imagination about what happens after the door is locked. And as an American, I hang my head in shame to have to recount those dreadful facts to you. Brutality touches men and women, young and old. Listen again to Israel Sheikh. In the Israeli army, sadistic impulses of both young and older men are given totally free rein. They may be pursued with almost total impunity, sadistic measures. He gives as an example that 4 soldiers had beaten an Arab to death. They were subsequently exonerated and sent back to their unit. But now I must tell you of a dreadful example of brutality that appeared in the translation of the Hebrew press by Israel Sheikh in the most recent issue, that of June of 1989. The account appeared in the widely respected Hebrew newspaper Haaretz as of May the 4th, 1989. I will, for the sake of time, summarize what happened. Acting on higher authority, a group of about 30